Hello, everyone, and welcome to Every Woman and Her Dog, a podcast where we talk about the things women whisper about in kitchens, voice note to their friends, and think about at 2 a.m. I'm your host, Joanne Lea, coach, therapist, and change maker. Each episode, we explore the realities of womanhood and cover topics ranging from identity shifts, feminine cycles, to self-leadership, relationships, burnout, and ambition, bringing to the surface the quiet reinventions happening behind closed doors for women. This is the being and becoming of personal agency. Let's get into it. Welcome to today's episode of Every Woman and Her Dog. Today, we are diving deep and talking about the big M word, menopause. Possibly not in the way that you've heard it spoken about before. Most conversations I find around menopause focus on the symptoms, the hot flushes, the hormones, the sleep, the weight gain, the brain fog. And while all of those experiences are real and deserve support, I believe there's another conversation that's largely missing. What if menopause wasn't simply framed as a biological transition? What if, for women, it was one of the most significant rites of passage in a woman's life? A threshold, an initiation, an invitation into a different way of living. Today, we're exploring it. We're exploring it and why we've become so focused on managing the symptoms that we've forgotten to prepare women for this transformation. I'm joined by Katelyn Dwyer-Taylor from Tailor Made Digital Support, mum of two girls, and the woman behind the scenes helping bring so much of my work to life. Welcome, Katelyn.
Hello, hello.
And joining us is our special guest today, Sandra Stack, creator of ft-ology and the author of This Is Your Shift, working as an inner mastery coach, guiding and teaching people how to reclaim conscious shifting and self-ownership. Welcome, Sandra.
Thank you for having me.
We're stoked to have you here today. What I love about today's conversation is that we're bringing three different perspectives to the table. And when I mean what I mean when I say about perspectives, I mean women in different stages or different seasons of a woman's life. So Katelyn is in the depths of her mother season, and I am at the end of my mother season. I'm perimenopausal, so I am about to move through that initiatory space into the next season, which is the Marga season. So that's when you're postmenopausal, or for some women from the age of 50 and above. So what's exciting is we've got these three perspectives today. Together, we're asking, what if every woman understood menopause long before she arrived there? Perhaps then it wouldn't feel like something happening to her, but something that she'd been prepared for and, in fact, welcomes with open arms. That feels like a really different narrative to the things that I'm hearing and seeing. So I'm going to hand it over to Katelyn.
Yeah. Before we start, though, I think we need to kind of talk about the elephant in the room a little bit, or the elephant not in the room. If we sound or look a little bit different today, it's because Jo's abandoned me and she's gallivanting around Canada.
I am.
Connecting with some women and Sandra over
Yes.
there,
Yeah,
missing me.
of course. Absolutely. We're over here in Smithers at the moment. Yeah.
Smithers, BC.
Yes. I've been
Nice.
diving deep with Sandra into women's cyclical knowledge, and we've been talking and collaborating and working in two spaces because we're both in a similar industry but with different frames. And yes, I've been contacted and connecting with women all over Vancouver. I've made some amazing connections and done some amazing work. So yes, that is the elephant in the room, Katelyn.
Yes.
Yeah, so shout out to our Canadian friends. So I really love that we're having this conversation today because if I'm completely honest, menopause has always felt like something that's later. And I just put to the side, back of my mind, I don't need to think about it. It's definitely going to come up sooner, I reckon, than I expect it to. something you don't really think about until you're in it. But sitting here with both of you, I am wondering, what if it's actually going to be too late by then? If I wait until it's happening, is it going to be too late? What if women needed this conversation years, even decades? I'm at 29 before menopause ever begins. Maybe it's not just about preparing for symptoms. Could it actually be that we are missing vital elements here that flips this time in a woman's life literally on its head? So let's start here. When you hear the word menopause, what do you think is missing from the conversation? We've become very good at talking about symptoms, but what aren't we talking about? Sandra, from your experience, and Jo, through your work with rites of passage, what do you believe menopause is really inviting us into?
I think this is really interesting. What I am going to do is I'm going to hand it over to Sandra for her insight of what that transition was like for her, because she's further along in that journey than I am. And so I think it would be great for Sandra to answer that because she has hindsight, right?
Yeah.
She's transitioned that space. So from her experiencing that, what do you feel was missing in the conversation or the experience of how you transitioned that space?
Conversation.
Right.
Conversation was missing. So a little backstory on me with menopause. I'm going to be 54. I entered post-menopause around 40 years old. So a lot of
perimenopause, you mean?
I did perimenopause and then I was menopause right around 40, 41.
Yeah.
So a lot of the conversation was negative, if it was even talked about.
Right.
So it was a lot of labels, a lot of negativity.
Okay.
A lot of negativity.
So the labels were negative?
Yes. So if I can be frank.
You can be as frank as you like here.
You're just being a bitch. You're too young. You're too young.
You're too young to be going through
to be going through this.
Right,
so that was I heard that a lot.
Was that from just people or professionals as well?
People.
Okay, right.
Yeah. And so I knew that it was happening. My doctor knew that it was happening. And it was interesting. Just I was met mostly with negativity, to be honest. And
Really?
it was from women.
So what impact did that have on you as you were moving through that space? Like you're saying that conversation was missing. What types of conversation were missing? And when you say that that was missing, what would you have liked to have heard or liked to have been able to use as a resource or
understanding of what was happening? It felt more, like I said, a negative around it. And it was almost like all these horrible things were going to happen at this point in my life moving forward because of it. So say like affecting my relationship with my partner, friendships, different things. And so for me, that was missing. I felt like, I mean, it's only been a couple of years that people are even talking about their symptoms, I feel. So back then, which I feel like was yesterday, but it was a while ago. It was a very lonely time. I felt very alone, confused. You're going through this, like the symptomatic changes. Which is one thing, to suddenly have all the symptoms, whether it's belly fat, all the things, right? The hot flashes, that sort of thing. For me, it was a more mental, and it still is, feeling more like the identity shift. And accepting that. Without the negative on it. So it's like, instead of trying to survive menopause, it's more like embracing, embodying, it
Mm.
and having that understanding.
Mm.
And Joe and I have talked about it, and it's eye-opening.
I think it's the conversation that is missing.
Right?
It is. That the whole thing is framed up. So to come back to your question, about rites of passage, Katelyn, the whole thing to me, or from my understanding now, is framed up as a huge symptom and just a thing that women have to endure or go through or survive, which was your words. And it's not framed up as like a rite of passage. And that's not to detract from the fact that all those things happen, right? Different women have different, like the amount of symptoms and experiences that women have through that period are so wide and varied. You know, some women suffer from frozen shoulder, other people get restless legs. Then there's the standard ones that we would talk about, like the belly fat and the brain fog and the
hot flushes.
Yes, the hot flushes. We can't go without talking about the hot flushes. I've reframed that. It's a hot flush to me. It's my energy rolling through my body, but that might not be comfortable for some people, right? So that is the conversation. That's it. Framed. The conversation is the symptoms. This is what menopause is.
Yes.
So for me, when I then look at it, I go, and sort of touching on the comment that you said before, Katelyn, about is it too late, or is it when should you know? Because at the moment it's sort of put to the side, and I'm like, when we should know when we're little. We should know when we're being or in our ancient ancestral feminine matriarchal education, we would know about that as young women. We would be educated about monarch, which is the first bleed, our different seasons, birthing, all of this type of stuff, along with that rite of passage into the season of the Marga, which comes after we've gone through menopause, right? So in terms of the conversation that isn't happening, that is the one that's not happening. That and if we I'm going to ask you this question actually, Sandra. If you were prepared and informed when you entered that initiation period, and you were empowered with the fact that this is actually really normal, even though the symptoms might not be great, that this is normal, and what you're actually going through is an identity shift for the purposes of coming into a more empowered space within yourself, because the role that you play in your seasonal cycle, but in the world to yourself and to others, is shifting and changing. And you're now gleaning all of this experience that you had, but there's also an invitation to clean up anything that you haven't dealt with from your maiden years, so that you move into this powerful time, stable, happy, clear, clean, integrated, and ready to embody what's happening on a biological level as a neural upgrade, right? So, what would that have been like for you?
Life-changing. I would have been excited about it. I would have embraced it and leaned into it, and it just would have felt like celebrating it more so than something just icky. I just feel like it's always had that
bad flavor.
And now for me, being almost 54, I say to people like 50s, and this is most probably the reason, is this feels like the best years of my life. Like had I known this, I would have really welcomed and looked forward to this time of my life, rather than, oh gosh, it's downhill from here.
Sitting in the indoctrinated framework that we've been given.
Yeah.
How does that all land with you, Katelyn, hearing that? And sort of, like you said, you're not there yet, and it's probably the last thing on your mind because you're in the depths of motherhood. But how does that all sort of sit with you?
From like the few people that are around me that going through it, have already gone through it, it seems like it's almost like pretty taboo to talk about it, or embarrassing. Like, I'll say this short little statement, and then we're not going to talk about it. So it's kind of like, okay, we don't talk about it. But I liked how Sandra said, it's like the best years of your life. It's not, it's not downhill, because I always like to think of every year of my life as the next level. So I keep going up these levels. So yeah, if you think about it that way, you go through the level of motherhood and then you get to upgrade to the next level.
Yeah.
And carry with you everything you've learnt and gone through to just be better and better and better.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to make that the clear definition, like that motherhood time. So, 25 to 50-ish, that you don't have to be a mother to human babies to be in the mother season, because the mother season is all about, high summer, full energy, when you're outputting a lot and you're in that space where you're mothering many, many, many things, but you're not necessarily mothering human children. So that the what that looks like for each woman can be very different, but the energies and the archetype of that time and space all has very similar themes. Yeah. So that's a big thing. And I've got friends that have had hysterectomies who have navigated the menopause initiation. That looked different to them, but the themes were still the same. The emotional invitations and the psychological invitations to that period of integrating the self and all parts of the self are still there, regardless of what the physical part looks like. That's another layer. Those themes and those flavors, that the invitations are still there for all of us, right? And I think that answers you. Well, for me, that's answering your question, Katelyn. What do I believe menopause is really inviting us into? The next space, the most powerful time of a woman's life, where her focus can shift. And also, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Estrogen leaves the building. And with
the elephant leaves the room.
That mothering, nurturing, like, it doesn't mean to say that we don't have that anymore, but it does railroad us somewhat into a different way of being and thinking. So when estrogen leaves the building, we step up to ourselves and go, right, now it's actually, I can hold space for myself and speak what's right and true for me, as well as turning up for other people.
Well, I feel that perceived responsibility, that it's our job to take care of everybody else and people please, and everyone comes before us. For me, definitely has left the building.
Yeah.
You've been warned.
But that doesn't mean by any means would you say that you are less, caring or wanting to show up in the spaces for your people and whoever, your partner, than what you were before. It just looks different.
It looks different, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm definitely more self-aware of where am I in that. Instead of pushing myself down, I'm making sure, for lack of a better phrase, that my cup is full, and then still taking and helping other people. Yeah, for sure.
I love this.
Yeah, Jo, you've described menopause as a threshold rather than simply a stage of life. Can you explain more what you mean by that?
So, dictionarially, I don't even know if that's a word, but we're going to create it today.
You're in Canada. It's
A threshold is a point of change. It's where, change begins, or effect. It starts to shift and change things. So we've just sort of tapped on into that, like, things look different, right? So for me, when I talk about a threshold, it's crossing from one space to the other. In the priestess world, we call that the void space, where we move from one, or we could talk about it as doors. We close one door and we open another, but there's still a threshold that one has to cross to close that door and then open into another space. So yeah, it is a threshold. It's a threshold of change. But then, so are all of our other rites of passage. Like, if you go back to our first rite of passage, which is monarch, our first bleed, that's a threshold, right? We step from being a young girl into being a woman and being able to give and create life, right? that's a threshold that changes, and that's solidified through our first bleed, right? So there's all these different places and spaces, but primarily our rites of passage come at those different seasonal changes of our life.
Yeah. So what makes menopause an initiation rather than another life event?
That's actually a really good question. I believe that anything that invites us to challenge the status quo, anything that invites us to take a look at how we're showing up and what impact that has, is an initiation, because you cannot go through those spaces and commit to those without change happening, right? So you're initiating a new way of being through that process. So I don't think it's, well, in some circles, it might be just like, oh, it's a part of life. In my space where I work with women, it's an initiation. Initiation is a whole bunch of invitations to some of those things plus more. And that's how I see it differently to just a thing that happens.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So Sandra, do you see women experiencing that same deeper transition alongside the physical one?
I do. And speaking from experience and talking to other people that are past peri now.
Well, I wonder if you're seeing them more like if they're not understanding that yet until they're through. Like you and I have talked about that, and you're like, I've got a deeper understanding of that now, but are they actually understanding what that is as it's happening?
Yeah, and I think the deeper transition for me is, as I'm going through it, I'm like figuring out the pieces. My mom had cancer, so she had chemo when she was 42. And so there was no talking about menopause. And even if she had got to the place of menopause, I don't know that she would have talked about it.
Yeah, maybe not.
Right? So I'm kind of just like, fly, bird, fly, and just figure it out as you go. And I feel like I kind of had to do it the hard way. Like more conversations like this need to happen amongst women, including men, to understand, instead of just going the old way, just trying to get through to the other side.
Or like the more conversations we have, the more language we have around it, the more we can inform our partners and the men in our lives.
But when we have better understanding, then we do have the words and ability to first understand ourselves and put language around it, to then be able to talk to our partner or friends or whomever about what it is we're experiencing.
Yeah. It's so interesting you talk about like not having any leadership in that space, or no shepherdesses to model off or understand about this rite of passage. I actually reflected on what I know of my mum. She didn't really ever talk about her menopause, but I remember it as her cranky time. She was very cranky. And I don't know if she knew what was actually going on for herself, because I remember, a couple of times me or my siblings would say, Mum, you're really angry. Like, what's going on? And there were other elements in her life going on that would have made that time challenging as it is. But she's like, no, I'm not angry. I'm not angry. And I'm thinking now, I'm looking back at that going, I actually feel like she might have been in perimenopause or, transitioning that space. And I don't know, this is the problem, right? I don't know if her mother had any conversations with her. And so my mum hasn't really had any conversations with me until I've enacted them. I'm like, so Mum, when did you go through menopause? Oh, I don't know, I think around 50. Okay, so what were your symptoms? She could tell me things more about her cycle, like, oh, I started to get more headaches. My cycle started to change, but that was it.
The physical.
Exactly. And all that's reiterated is this physical and nothing about all the other stuff, which the physical to me, now that I have such a broad understanding of what this rite of passage is, it feels like about 15%.
Yes. Yes.
So we've got this huge chunk completely missing. And then, like you said before, Sandra, people are talking about it now.
Mhm.
It's getting out there. You know, I heard Tori Amos on the piano talking about perimenopause at one of her concerts not so long ago. And I'm like, when has that ever happened before?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's becoming more of a common language. However, only 15% of it. Like, I'm not hearing women, or because they don't know
Yes.
about the other component, the other 75%.
I feel like in that 15%, most of what is being talked about is, again, the symptoms.
Yes.
It's not like when we were speaking earlier today, I was explaining to Joe, like, it's almost like I'm seeing out of new eyes. Like,
Yeah.
I'm becoming more self-aware of my boundaries, of, you know, that is no longer serving me to bring into this identity shift that's happening. And the wisdom. So you have your experiences through life, through all the things that I've done, good, bad, and everything. And and figuring out, honestly, like, what's working and what's not. And it's just this moment of reflection for me. Yeah.
It's really interesting that you also said that you felt really alone, because women are supposed to be together. We're supposed to hold space for each other. The mother archetypes are supposed to help the maidens move through their thresholds and their rites of passage. The Marga women are supposed to hold space for the mothers moving through menopause and hold space. And then the crone, the wise elder crone women are supposed to hold space for women moving through that rite of passage into eldership. We do not have that going on. Like, I'm going to say we suck balls at that right now, because
Yeah.
it doesn't exist. There is a caveat in there where I'm going to say it's been designed like that. And if we look at all of those different not pain points, scrap the pain points word. If we look at all of those different rites of passage and areas where our lived experience comes into the social collective, like periods, menstruation, like giving birth, or menopause, all of our really important rites of passage and things that are very feminine, that should be in the feminine space, supported by the feminine, have been pathologized and have been turned into, like, flipped on their head, turned into things that are taboo, things that are not to be spoken about in public, things that are dirty, things that are they're disempowering rather than empowering. And that there should be this strict, structured way of doing things that's very masculine, left-brained, scientific, analytical. Oh, we can tell you about the science, but it's more than the science, right?
It's almost like there's a problem with us.
There is.
Like, there's a problem, like, we're to be solved. That all these rites of passage that we go through is dirty, gross. We don't talk about it, hide it, shame, all the things. And it's like, we just, through all those stages, we're meant to believe that there's something wrong with us.
I'm going to throw a huge curveball in here just to get us really uncomfortable for a second. All right.
Great, love it.
Okay, here we go. Oh, and by the way, I'm literally having a hot flush on my top.
Hot flush.
How? Okay, this is going to be a little challenging for us all, but I'm going to put it out there. How often have you talked to your partner about discharge?
Okay. I'm actually not too bad at this.
Okay.
Oh, poor Connor. Oh dear, he cops it. I'm pretty open with him about a lot of things. And I don't know what it started, because we were together. I was 20, he was 19. I'd like to say it's because we've been together since young and we've kind of grown up together a bit. But at the same time, you've got plenty of young couples out there where the young guy doesn't want to know anything about it. So I don't really know why we've just been so open with each other about these kinds of things.
How many of us then were like, ew, awkward? Like,
I mean, previously, it's weird though, because I guess depending on who I was talking to, like, I guess initially, if I was talking to like even my best friend, I'd be like, oh, do we have to talk about this right now? I don't know. It's just weird. It's just, I don't know.
Interesting.
Connor's the exception to the rule, apparently.
I've also seen you give birth, so I get that,
I
right?
know.
However, my point in this is if we were told as young women, when you're like, oh, mum, what's this on my underwear or whatever, and they're like, no,
Yeah.
that's actually really normal. That's your vulva doing what it needs to do. It needs to make sure it stays lubricated and clean and does all that type of stuff. And that's what that is. You wouldn't bat an eyelid if someone then picked up your knickers and went, ew, what's that? You're like, well, that's really normal, right? The language and the felt sense of not being taboo, and the felt sense of it being like, yeah, it's pretty normal, like would be fine.
Yes.
But how many of us had that discussion?
Well, just like even going back to when we were trying to get pregnant, and my sister's a nurse, and she would be like, well, what's your discharge like? Are you ovulating? I was like, I don't know. Why would I know that? And she was like, touch it. And I was like, I'm not touching it. Yeah. Yeah. So like, back then it was like, why would I do that? What do you mean?
And that's part of the systemic issue of us almost, well, what's been indoctrinated in us to reject those things, to reject our vital experiences as a woman, rites of passage, all those types of things. That's where I feel, I know it comes from systemically, and it just going on and on and on and on and on and expanding and expanding and expanding, right?
Yeah, and it's just because I know we've spoken about it before. You've got PE, we call it in Australia, with your sexual education that you always do, first term of year 7. But they do teach you like anatomy and stuff, but it's more focused on how to not get pregnant, not focused on this is how your body works, this is how your cycle works. And especially like if you just put onto a pill, well, then you just stop. You don't even need to think about it because the pill's doing it for you. And I remember, when we were trying to get pregnant, the doctor would be like, well, when's your ovulation? And I was like, when is it supposed to be? I don't know. I don't know how any of it works. Because it's like, let's not educate them about how everything works. Let's just make sure they don't make babies.
I also that is because we've lost the connection between those, I was talking about shepherding us through different spaces. It would have been the other maidens teaching, the older maidens, and the mothers teaching the young maidens about all of that type of stuff. So it's this spiral of feminine knowledge that gets handed on and talked about early and doing all that I don't believe that that's the job of the education system. I believe that's the job of us. But how can we pass that knowledge on if it's not there, if we haven't been taught about it and talking about it? Like I spoke about all of this stuff with my daughter. I don't have an issue talking to her about her pleasure, making sure that she understands her pleasure is just as valid as his pleasure, and talking all things feminine bits, if you like, and rites of passage. And so I feel like she's yards ahead of where I was at that age. Not to say that my mum didn't do the best with what she had at the time, but it's this problem of missing knowledge. It's this problem of us of reclaiming that the women's mysteries information for the purpose of us expanding as women and helping our sisters, our nieces, our all the women, you know, even the women that have transitioned different rites of passage and never known about that, for them to, in my experience working with women who've gone through a lot of these transitions and then they find out this information. Like I know one woman, really close friend of mine, is 70 and she learned about this stuff and she's like, what the actual fuck? And then there was anger.
Yes.
But then there was like this whole Connect Four thing where it all just dropped in for her and she's like, oh, that makes sense, this makes sense, that falls in place, this falls in place. This resonation within her where she became at peace with herself because she was able to join all of those dots together even at 70, and then continue for the rest of her life with that knowledge, knowing that she then now imparts all of that on her grandchildren, male and female, right? Because it's not just female topics. Yes, there's feminine education there, but to make it a common language, it is in my house. Like, you know, my boys and I, we don't have, so I've got two boys and a girl, you know, nothing is off the table. Boys' languages on the table, girls' languages on the table. We're talking, you know, doodles and scrotums, and we're talking vages and discharge. We don't care. It all gets talked about in my house, but I wouldn't be common. My house wouldn't be a common space where that is all talked about, as far as I'm aware.
It should be.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
Sorry, Katelyn. It's just so
No.
empowering. And even in my 50s, I'd rather know now. Like I'm kind of with your girlfriend who's 70. Like it's better late than never to have these conversations. And I don't have children, but I have nieces, friends, you know, friends' kids, people my age, older. And I feel like this should be really talked about.
Absolutely. Not to mention your clients, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, this comes into when we talk about, you know, working with women, especially, but also men being aware of what's going on when they're not aware of how we roll monthly versus how they roll daily, right? Because they've got daily testosterone peak and trough. We've got monthly cycle, whether we're bleeding or following the moon.
Yes.
We've still got those cycles going on. Like these are key biological actions that are happening within us as men and women that are completely disregarded. They're completely overlooked. And then, you know, that next step up as women, I talked to Sandra about this, we're internally organized from such a young age with our cycle. Like women can go their whole lives completely disassociated from their cycle. I'm like, it lives with you for 35 to 40 years. Like that'd kind of be like having, I don't know, a twin on your shoulder and never acknowledging that they're there, you know? Like it feels insane when I say that, but it's a reality for so many women. Like it literally blows my mind.
And I think through the conversation, as well as you were talking about patriarch, bringing us back to our feminine, I feel like we're so masculine. And even in the menopause space, you know, everyone's like, zero fucks given, zero fucks given. And you're like, it's such a masculine
energy,
you know?
Yeah.
Instead of being like, okay, and just really allow yourself to embody the feminine.
Well, is it all fucks given, right?
Yeah.
It's all fucks given about me.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
before it was like, not that you gave zero fucks about yourself, but like it's actually really more about the whole I'm happy to settle in myself and give all fucks about myself for the purpose of figuring out where I sit now. Like I'm changing, I'm moving, and I can either push against that and fight it all the way, you know, teeth grit the whole way, or I can actually look at that. Here's my big thing. I'll be interested to hear both your opinions or perspectives on this. I wonder if women were moving through this transition with so much knowledge, I wonder what the symptoms would look like differently. I wonder from a physiological space, would that change? And we're hypothesizing here.
Yes.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on that, Sandra?
I think it would.
Yeah. What about you, Katelyn? The reason I ask this is, when something's wrong physically with you and you don't know, and you get anxious, right? And you get all funny about it, and then you're almost, or you are creating it to be a bigger thing than it is. You might be having more symptoms that are non-related because that anxious stress hormone energy is kicking. This is where we go holistic, right? Is kicking in and manifesting stuff, right?
Yeah.
And
Or
so,
you do know.
yes.
Or you do know, and you've labeled it, it's a thing,
Yeah.
focused on it as a problem that becomes a bigger problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
100%.
So if we're seeing menopause as a problem and symptoms, and
It's going to be a problem.
exactly, right?
Yeah.
It makes the problem bigger, right? But if we're seeing it through a different light, if we're actually approaching it at this informed space of what it actually is, I wonder what that looks like for symptoms, right? I wonder if the nervous system is on board and we're regulating ourselves because we feel like we're creating those safe spaces for ourselves, going, it's okay. Yes, I'm feeling this, but this is actually normal, which we see in spaces like birthing and other or even your cycle, right? I get it's normal for me to feel like I can't grasp my emotions as well as I normally can before I go into a cycle because it's part of the hormonal process. I get it. If we're able to regulate ourselves through that space, and then we stay in a place where we're more neutral, and I wonder what the symptoms look like then. I wonder, it doesn't mean that you're not going to experience shifts and changes physiologically, but I wonder the degree to what they look like. And then if I'm in a neutral space where I'm like, yes, this is part of it, I've got to move through this, da 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 da, am I able to grab onto other resources that support me better because I feel I'm not going like, I just need to get the fuck over this and sort this shit out, right? I'm actually like, no, these things take the time they take. I need to, stay in this neutral space. What else is coming up for me? If we're educated and taught how to move into that portal change, right? Or we find women that can help us shepherd us through that space, right? And help us make a bit more sense of that for ourselves. What does it look like?
Well, from personal experience, being so alone that it wasn't communicated, also knowing other people before me that had actually gone through menopause and knowing what it did to their relationship, divorce, different things, and the language around it about she's crazy, bitch. So as I was entering that space, I was holding on for dear life and just being like, okay, ride the roller coaster.
White knuckling
and
yourself.
like white knuckling myself instead of just being like, okay, this can be a beautiful space to be in. Yeah, you have ebb and flow with your emotions, that sort of thing, but having the resources, like you said, to really understand and to work through the identity shift and the changes that are happening would, I mean, I can't even put a price on it.
Yeah, true story. Yeah, well, it is invaluable, isn't it? Right? Yeah, absolutely. What are your thoughts, Katelyn? Because you are the youngest, so
I'm certainly the biggest manifester in the wrong way because I can think myself into a stomachache. Like, so talking about if we're putting labels on things, if I'm telling myself I'm going to feel like this, I'm already putting it out there. And then if I do feel like that, it feels 10 times worse. And because I've worked myself up about it, stressing about it.
And
so
you've also had confirmation bias, right? So it's like it's confirming what you put out.
Yeah. So if we can take some labels off of things and stop making it seem so scary and negative, then like you said, we can just ride the wave and not fight it so hard.
Mm.
Why do you think we've lost the feminine education?
Well, I mean, first port of call 6,000 years ago, enter the patriarchy. I don't have to unpack that. That's my, that's the first port of call I go to. And then everything that has the effects of that have spread a long way. So, I think it's a whole other podcast to go into what her story is about. But for me, that's I feel like that's where the cord was broken, and then it was systematically repressed, reframed, and put into a place where we were disempowered.
Mm-hmm.
So I would go as far to say that if you look at all of our rites of passage and the things that appear problematic to society, flip them on the head, and that's the way they're supposed to be.
Yes.
That's where I also think the change in our society, we're not set up the way that we used to be. So we're not going to the red tent when we in the moon lodge when we menstruate, and we're exchanging knowledge and learning from the elders and so on, and welcoming the new women in. And so because those bonds are being broken,
mm-hmm.
then the knowledge is not being passed. And that's where I feel that feminine education is lost. And now there's a shift coming. There's been a shift for a while. Feminine is on the rise again in that space, but I feel as though there's a global feminine amnesia. So when you start to talk about this type of stuff, we start to pull up really interesting labels like it's woo woo, or or she's just a hippie. And I think that's part of the hangover effect from everything that's happened. But it's like, actually, as soon as a woman sits and learns about this type of stuff, there's a reclamation that happens, and you can't explain it, you just feel it, and you're like, oh, why does this make so much sense internally to me, even though I haven't known it? I feel like I have. Somewhere it's like a reawakening, a reseeding of something ancient, and something that just deeply resonates and makes sense, right, to the feminine psyche
and peace.
Yes.
You just feel this calm and this peace rather than this turmoil because you're so in the masculine or not having the knowledge of what actually is. I mean, we should know what's happening with our body.
Yeah.
The only one I've had all the way along. So, my body is my temple. Temples look different. Male temples look different to female temples, right? There's different biology there. We're made up differently.
Yeah.
What's the problem with that?
Yeah.
It's just that we've been taught to push it away. Exactly. Well, exactly, that there is a problem. What do you think about the lost feminine education?
I mean, exactly what you said. And I feel like there needs to be a shift.
100%.
I feel like listen to the podcast, share the podcast, start the conversation, learn as much as you can, because we should be empowered as women. Enough is enough, and we should really just be able to be empowered and find our place in the world and not be made to feel guilt or shame or anything because we are a woman.
Or aggressive about it either, right? Yeah. Like that we need to fight, I mean, there's been times in our history where we have, but I believe that we're in a space where that's been done. We don't.
I feel like I feel like the shift coming feels peaceful. It feels empowered, but like not in the masculine,
not
like
power over.
Yes. It's just this beautiful coming together of women in the feminine, like in our feminine.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Sandra,
yes,
if we could imagine going back because you were quite young when you started going through menopause. If you had had the knowledge younger, and also if we didn't have the labels and the stereotypes and stuff, what do you think your experience would have been like going through the transition, having the knowledge, but also everybody else having the knowledge?
I think it would have been a beautiful transition, with not having the expectation of what I either witnessed or what people said. I think that having other people, like a support system of people to have talked about it, to ask questions, to share how I was feeling. I mean, I went to a really deep depression.
Yeah, right.
You know, like my body changed so much, mentally, physically. The brain fog, like I just felt in a really dark place. Yeah, it was just like, all I can say is it felt really dark and not good.
It's so interesting you talk about the depression and the body shift. Like for me, I'm in the belly fat era where we've talked about this before, and I think I've talked to Katelyn about it as well, where is it coming from, right? I don't understand, but it's part of the shift. I do understand, right? I understand that hormones are changing, things are shifting, all those things. I feel like I could go into a deep depressive state if I wasn't informed and if I didn't feel so happy and welcoming for the transition. Because there are days where I look in the mirror and go, seriously, like that could get on top of me, right? Because it's so far removed from what I'm used to and where I'm used to being.
Absolutely. And I was in a newer relationship, which I'm still in, but you know, that going from, you know, being fit and smaller and just being like, I mean, I was doing every workout program you could think of, measuring, doing all the different things I could think of, and it just kept coming on. And for me,
Let's
it just
say
felt
it.
like,
what the actual fuck?
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck? And you know, and that's hard on a relationship.
Absolutely.
You know, and it's just this, it just felt heavy and dark, being that I couldn't share that with anyone to feel like I was going to come out on the other side okay. When you're in it, you're in it. And so I was grasping at anything to get myself out of it, and then add in the external people's comments, that I'm being crazy, I'm a bitch, or looking at me sideways because I had put on so much weight, just made me go deeper, rather than having people to lift me up and be like, we've got you. You're going to be okay. You know?
Yeah. That's big. That's huge. Yeah.
If menopause is inviting us into something, how do we meet that invitation? How do we move with it instead of resisting it?
Okay. So I think it's hard to meet that invitation if you're uninformed. Like if you haven't been privy to understanding there's another story going on here. There's another, well, we talked about the 15-75, right? The 15% is, you know, the body, and then the 75% is all that emotional, psychological work. If you're not aware that other 75% exists, I think it's really challenging to be able to meet that as an invitation, because all you're hearing is symptoms. You're not hearing about the other stuff, right?
Totally. And you're also in it. So you're like having this internal battle with yourself of like, I'm not okay, but feeling like, well, hang on a second. Like I'm feeling like you're feeling different. Like it's hard to put language around it. You just are feeling this shift happening, and then you're like, wait, I'm changing, and and like I said, people's reactions really contributed to be like, okay, maybe I need to stay where I was. But then you have this internal battle, like this almost inner knowing that you can't be in that space anymore.
Well,
to
it's going to
transition,
take
right?
you kicking and screaming
Yes.
if you don't
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that could be challenging for women to meet it as an invitation. But if that's if they're hearing this, or this is being spread, or they're hearing it from somewhere else, and this is a confirmation that there's more, how we meet it is an invitation, is how we frame it. Is going there and saying, all right, like there's these components, but there's also these components. What is this asking of me? How can I lean into this and make this for my highest good and my most, like, it's not something that's going away. So how do I want to approach this? And this is for me on a multi-tiered level. Like, I remember saying to someone, I'm in my pufferfish stage the other day, because I go, and then I shrink back down, and then I go up, and then I shrink back down. And I asked myself, this is a really simple way of looking at it. I asked myself, does that actually serve me to speak like that about myself? Right. To actually speak like that about myself. So I then stopped doing it. I'm like, no, I'm not going to say that anymore. I'm just going to say, I'm working with my body. I'm working with my body's changes. So it's this constant mini invitations when each little next thing comes up is, how am I going to approach this? What am I going to do with this? Oh, I keep feeling that like I'm really lethargic. Okay, well, I'm going to have to look into that. Maybe I need to get some blood work done. Maybe I need to know where my baseline is. Okay, cool. Did that help? Maybe it did. Maybe it didn't. All right, maybe I'm going to talk to other people I know that have been through the transition. Did you feel fatigue? What did you find worked best for you? So I'm not going to sit like a victim and go, this is terrible. I'm going to actually engage in the process and consistently, in small, tiny little steps each way of the journey, invite myself to look at something differently, or ask myself what it's asking of me, or recognize that most women, once they understand that this is a rite of passage, will do some type of transpersonal work through this period. And it's actually really normal to do that either on their own or with some type of, coach or therapist or shepherdess or whatever they do, whatever that looks like for them. It's actually really normal to be transitioning a space of identity shift and change, and asking lots of different things of yourself. That's how I would meet it as an invitation, and that's how I'd move through with it and lean into it as opposed to resisting it. That's just
So Jo, you've got your anti-rose program that you're running. How do spaces like that and other programs around play a part in helping women navigate not just the physical transition, which is not the whole part of it, but the identity shift that's unfolding beneath that physical shift?
I think, and she rose especially, or any other transpersonal program or work with somebody, I'd have to look at what anybody else was set up, but I will speak for and she rose and some other one-on-one work that I offer. It is set up so that women, because I don't need to do the physical stuff. There's a lot of people out there already ticking that box so well, right? We talk about those physical elements, but I don't need to address them. I'm addressing the 75%. I'm addressing, I'm normalizing it. I'm giving them the tools and the strategies to do that deep inquiry, to understand where they sit, to understand what identity shift they're moving through, to understand what's important to them next. So it's all the framework and the tools and the strategies, so that then after they do something like that, they can go away and do it themselves. They don't need to the hand. I'm there for support should they want it, but they're also empowered to do it themselves. For me, I'm like, a tool's no good if you don't use it, right? Tool left on the shelf is useless.
Yeah.
I teach tools and frameworks and systems that are feminine based that can be reused over and over again at lots of different intersections, rites of passage, and life-changing moments where they can be empowered to empower themselves to move through those spaces.
And I'd like to add, and others.
Yes. And others.
And others, yes.
Definitely others. Yeah.
Before we finish up, I'd like to ask you both one final question. We call it Joe's Nugget. Sandra might have a nugget.
She does.
Ooh,
Sure she
okay. If every young woman could leave this space today understanding just one truth about menopause, something you wish every woman knew long before she ever arrived at this threshold, what would it be?
First that comes to mind is it is such a beautiful place to be. It's a beautiful, peaceful place to be.
On the other side, are you talking about?
I think on the other side where I am, and again, we could go back to like the understanding. I'm with the right support and understanding. Oh my gosh, it's beautiful. Like I said, this is like I feel like I'm in the best years of my life.
I would say, being on not the side that Sandra's at yet, I would say that the one truth I would like every young woman to know about menopause is that it's valid and necessary and super important. So there's three things there, not one. That it's normal. That I would like to normalize that for women to go, it's just so important. It's an important transition, just like all of our other transitions in life. It's just as important as the other ones we sort of discussed today.
Yeah.
And that she's not alone.
I'm gonna add to that. To my nugget is to approach it with curiosity rather than expectation
or resistance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really good. So our nuggets have come out to bigger nuggets.
I've almost got like a full meal going on with all these nuggets.
One thing
we're talking 75%.
Get one nugget.
We 75.
Exactly. Perimenopause and menopause women say no to one nugget.
So as usual, it was such a pleasure to be a part of another deep and meaningful conversation, and it was so fun to have you, Sandra, with us today. Well, with Joe physically and me spiritually online.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us, Sandra. It's been a pleasure and a deep dive. Thanks again to Katelyn, who always brings us back to a great baseline and keeps us moving in the right direction. And thank you to all of our listeners out there. Please share, like, subscribe, do the things,
The
things, because the more we talk, the more you talk, the more we create a movement. Right?
Yeah. Supporting you, supporting your friends, supporting your daughters, everybody.
Supporting women everywhere.
Yes. Start with one conversation.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Firstly, a deep thank you to our guests today for their honesty, wisdom, and the courage to have those real conversations. If something's landed for you today, don't brush it off. That pull you feel, it's your next edge calling. If you'd like to explore working with me, hit me up on my socials or on my website at joannelee.com.au. Until next time, keep showing up for yourself because you're worth it. With love, Jo.